So 2025 is kind of stacked when it comes down to games, and that makes me excited. Usually every year there's only one or two games that excite me, but now there's a lot. So I'm just gonna go over some of the games that I'm personally looking out for. Starting with the obvious, Elden Ring Nightreign. Nightreign is an interesting looking game because it's basically Elden Ring but more roguelike. It's also co-op focused as well. You can still play it by yourself, but it's better if you have two other players with you. Nightreign offers different classes that each have their own unique skills and abilities. Personally, I'm most excited for this deflecting class because I love me some Sekiro. The game will take place in an alternate version of Limgrave, and the main goal is to defeat the main boss of each session and ultimately defeat the Night Lord. So yeah, the game seems interesting. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not super crazy excited for it, but I am still eager to play it and see what it is like. From the looks of things, some bosses from the previous Souls games will make a return, and that's cool, but I do hope they also focus on some new original ones as well, which it seems like they're gonna do because we saw this Cerberus boss which looks really badass, and there's a screenshot of this guy. I'm not sure if he's a boss, but man, the design looks really cool. So yeah, at least it looks like we're getting some original bosses. Overall, this game seems really interesting, and it's FromSoft. They haven't let me down in years, so I'm still pretty eager to try this out. The next game I'm really excited for is first Berserker Kazan. This game got me interested the first time I saw its reveal at the Game Awards 2 years ago. It's described as an intense action RPG where players step into the role of Kazan, a legendary general of the Pelos Empire. Having defied death itself, Kazan embarks on a relentless quest to uncover the truth behind his betrayal and exact revenge on those responsible for his downfall. The combat seemed to be a solid mix between the traditional Souls style of gameplay, mixed in with some Sekiro elements as well since it's a parry focused game. People who played the demo mentioned that the combat for the most part feels great and the game itself is going to be super challenging. Personally, I'm excited for it because, come on, it's a new Souls-like, plus it's coming out in March, which is pretty soon. Now look, I know that technically this isn't a new game, but I don't care. I'm still putting it on the list. Lies of P was an amazing game. Sure, I do think that the game has some things that needs refining, but for the most part, it was great. It felt like if someone combined Bloodborne and Pinocchio and sprinkled in some steampunk elements and mixed it all together. The game is fun and challenging, and the story is what surprised me the most. For the first time ever, a Souls-like made me actually somewhat give a shit about its story and lore. After playing through the whole game, I was excited to see what the DLC could be like, and last year, we got an image of it. It seemed like the expansion will take place on this snowy-like island, and yeah, that's all we know from this. Now, there were leaks and rumors going around that the DLC will be releasing first quarter of 2025, but even if it doesn't release in the first quarter, it's definitely coming out this year because, come on, 2 years for a DLC? That's crazy. But again, I know absolutely nothing about the DLC. I'm just hoping they make the level design a bit more interesting, have some new weapons, and some cool new bosses. That's all I'm asking for. Recently there were talks about a Black Myth Wukong DLC, and apparently it's gonna release sometime this year. Now none of this was confirmed. I think the DLC was, but we're not sure if it's coming out this year, but I think it might. Again, I'm not gonna speak too much on this as there aren't any concrete evidence, but mostly just speculation. Now the game itself made a huge amounts of money and it's not like it's open world, so I don't think the DLC will take a super long time to come out, especially since it's probably not going to be as huge as the main game. Shadow of the Erdtree took 2 years, mostly because it was almost similar in scope to the base game, which is already open world. Plus FromSoft had to implement a whole new leveling system which takes time. But in Black Myth Wukong's case, the game is large, but not in that scale. Again, I'm just hoping for a release this year because I really love the game. Now let's talk about the final Souls-like on this list, and that's Wuchang Fallen Feathers. The game website describes it as, well, a Souls-like that follows Wuchang, a female pirate who awakens to amnesia and suffering in the final years of China's Ming Dynasty during a chaotic era. A darkness has befallen the land of Shu, and a phenomenon known as the feathering is causing mutations. Thrown into an epidemic of plague and monsters, you will have to overcome cruel and twisted enemies with various fighting styles, hidden weapons, ancient firearms, and even the powers of feathering to forge a path through flesh and blood towards the truth buried beneath it all. All of that sounds cool and all, but I'm very interested to see how this game will play out, and I'm willing to give it a try. From just watching the trailers, the combat seemed to be more fast paced, which I personally like. I'm just hoping we get a demo before it releases, so I can test it out to see whether I'll be getting it or not. There's still a 90% chance I get it anyways because, Souls-like, but at the moment there is no time frame when it's releasing, and all we know It's that it's releasing this year, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm still looking out for this. I'm actually really excited for this. I've played through the first game and I really liked it a lot. The story was amazing, the open world, while a bit mid in terms of side missions, was really beautiful and breathtaking. Funnily enough, recently I was doing a research and I searched up the budget for the original Ghost of Tsushima, only to find out that it was around 60 million, which is a lot, don't get me wrong, but games like Last of Us 2 had a budget of around 200 million, and in my opinion, Ghost felt like the bigger game. I mean, it literally was, as it's an open world title. But yeah, that was surprising to me. But hopefully Ghost of Yotei will have some of the same charm that the first game had, and possibly work on a few things like making the side quests more interesting and whatnot. But I have faith that this game will turn out great if it's handled properly. Ghost of Yotei's exact release date is still unknown. We know it's coming out this year, but we don't know when. My guess is that it's probably going to release in the middle of the year or maybe later down. It took me a while for me to get interested in Crimson Desert. I remember when I saw one of the first trailers many years ago, I thought it looked way too ambitious and that it would most likely get cancelled or stuck in development hell. But here we are many years later, and the latest trailer showed that the game would be releasing in 2025. Again, no specific dates, just the year. And after watching the trailers and seeing the full-on gameplay of some of the boss fights, I went from I don't really care to yeah, I'm definitely gonna play this. The combat seems interesting, and the boss fights from what I've seen so far is surprising, as I know this game isn't a Souls-like, not even close, but the fact that they put a decent focus on the boss fights makes me really excited. And going back to the gameplay, it seems like you're able to do some really crazy shit like riding dragons and doing wrestling moves on enemies. Honestly, everything about this game seems cool so far, and I can't wait to try it. I don't see too many people talking about this game. Hell, it does seem to be a mix of Death Stranding and Dark Souls. Okay, I know the devs said that the game isn't a Souls-like, but from what I've seen, it does look like it has some light Souls elements in its combat. Anyways, I really like the atmosphere of the game, and it seems to be more story/environmental driven rather than gameplay. I do hope that the gameplay though is good, but from what I've seen and heard, it's just alright. Again, I can tell that the exploration and secret finding is the main thing it's got going on for it, but I'm still on the fence about the game, as I'm a very action type of guy. But again, I will need to see more gameplay or at least play a demo to see if I will get it or not. I mean, there's still an 80% chance I will, so who knows. But at least the world is interesting enough to draw me in. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't played a Monster Hunter game. Okay, I'm lying. I've tried Rise and played just a very small part, but I haven't picked the game back up. Not because it's bad, but mostly because I've been busy with other stuff. But when it comes on to Monster Hunter, it seems to be a bit harder for me to get into. Not difficulty wise, but just how it is. But I'm interested in Wilds because it seemed like it's gonna be a bit more, beginner friendly. And I'm still planning on playing Rise eventually, but at the moment my eyes are on Wilds. Jeez, the wording, what the fuck? The game is set to release on February 28th, and I'm most likely gonna check it out. Now, the final game I'm excited for is GTA 6. Honestly, I've been a fan of the series since I was a kid, and the fact that we're getting the newest entry this year makes me happy. I mean, hopefully it comes out this year. There's not much more that needs to be said about this. We all know about the GTA series, and I have trust in Rockstar when it comes on to making decent games. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. So those were the games I'm most excited for this year. Let me know down in the comments what your most anticipated games are, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a good one.